broadcast community. It is MJ Calloway here with your Thursday Bounce Up broadcast. And I'm excited to have our guest today, and we are talking about money mindset. So let's welcome Eleni Anastos. Did I get that right? I even practiced it.
It's a great name for telemarketers. I'm Eleni Anastos, and I'm just a Midwestern girl from Michigan, but I have a 100% Greek name. But it's great to be here with you, MJ.
It's great to have you here. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize that was a Greek name. I have several Greek friends. I'll have to introduce you to them.
Yes.
So and yes, I have a hard time sometimes with their names too. So and I didn't realize you were from Michigan. It will be going to Michigan actually in June to visit the Motown Museum that has had a major remodel. So Michigan is such a great area.
Yes, especially in the summer. It's beautiful.
Yes. So welcome. I am so excited to talk about this subject, money mindset. And especially because we are in the week of Small Business Week. So with the SBA, the beginning of May, the first week of May is designated as Small Business Week. So money mindset is a perfect topic for us to discuss today. So can you give me a little bit of your background on how you came about, because you've talked about money mindset quite a bit over the past couple of years.
Yes, I have. Well, I work with entrepreneurs and executives. And what I found the common thread, regardless of why someone comes to me, whether they want to start a business, whether they've just plateaued in their business, or it's an executive that's out of sorts, the common thread is everyone has had a screwed up relationship with money. There is always an issue that can be drawn back to money. And the reality is money impacts everyone on a daily basis, and it touches every aspect of a business. So if you don't get right with it in terms of your mindset, you're always going to hit those proverbial bumps in the road. So that's why I do a lot of focus on the money mindset, because it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, an executive, or retired, you still have to know how to deal with money.
So could you, because that's a lot there. So with it, that there's some issue related to money. So do you have an example of somebody who had an issue with money and it's followed them?
Yes. One of my clients, very gifted entrepreneur, extremely talented, but she was not earning enough money by any stretch of the imagination. She was barely making ends meet and really sometimes worrying how she was going to make it from month to month. And when we first spoke, she was sharing with me, because I always dig deep, let's unpack what you first learned about money. And for most of us, we can go all the way back to when we were growing up. And she would talk about how her parents always fought about money. They weren't fighting each other, but they were stressed. They couldn't make ends meet. Money's the bad guy. There's never enough to go around. So she was always hearing the negative side of money, like it had a life of its own. And when it came for her to stand her ground and stand in her power in a sales conversation, because she didn't want to deal with money from all the negativity she learned growing up, she could barely state her fees. First of all, she was way undervaluing herself. And in a sales conversation, she said there were actually times where she would almost apologize for her fees. She said, I feel like my throat's going to swell shut if I have to actually present that number to someone. And of course, when we unpacked it and realized she had adopted all those negative limiting beliefs from her parents. And again, I'm sure they wanted the best for her. They wanted her to do the best. And those beliefs may have served her for a while, but when she realized, wow, I'm not standing in my own power, I'm giving money all the power. And we rewrote her money story so she could raise her fee. She could confidently discuss money in that sales conversation. And she began earning more and more from that point on.
Oh, that's a great example. Thank you. Now, with that, do you see, because I have a number of questions that are popping in my head from that part of your conversation. Do you see that entrepreneurs or business owners or founders of a business or a nonprofit, when they are asking money that directly impacts them, is different than somebody who is selling a product? So a service rather than a product for somebody else.
Right.
Do you find that there's definitely a difference when people talk about money?
There is to a degree, because it's easier to say, here's this widget and here's the price for this widget. And for a lot of people, it's easier to disassociate themselves, that it's okay, it's the product, it's not me. But when you are trying to raise money for an organization, raise money for your cause, sell your own services as an entrepreneur, that emotional connection to having to stand up and state your fees confidently. I always talk about being passionately detached. Of course, we're both entrepreneurs. We're passionate about what we do and being of service, but we also have to be confident when we're talking about money, or it's going to come across. If we don't value ourselves, then why should someone else value us, right?
Right. I had someone once say to me, you're charging X amount, let's say 6 pineapples for 3 hours of work. I said, no, it's an investment for you for the 20 plus years of experience I gained to shortcut your process here. So it's in thinking about it that way. So going back to your opening, what you had shared there, that story. I remember once when I had worked in the senior living space, and I was throwing something away. And one of the residents there had said, I can tell you're not a child of the Depression. You're throwing that away. So that's an example of somebody taking a story the whole way through. And at that point, the average age of that senior living space was in the 80s. So with it, she had taken that the whole way through. And she was right. I was not a child of the Depression. So that makes absolute sense with the stories. So thinking about a business owner, so what should be a priority if you want to achieve I wrote some questions down here, an income breakthrough? Like, what should be a priority?
No, and that is an important question. It absolutely has to be freeing yourself from past money beliefs. And just the example that I shared, with that client, and what you were sharing as well, because the reality is none of us can succeed beyond our current beliefs. And if you're bringing forward, no one will ever pay my fees, there's not enough to go around, how can I confidently discuss the money in a sales conversation, all those negative limiting beliefs that focus on lack, how are you expected to grow a business? How are you expected to prosper? And even if you're not an entrepreneur, if you have a job, if you work in corporate, and you still have all those limiting beliefs about money, then I see a lot of people that tend to over-deliver, overcompensate than what they're actually paid. How many members here, past or present, of the over-deliverers club? I've been there. So it's releasing those limiting beliefs. So instead of no one's ever going to pay my fees, the right client's going to see value in what I do. So it's flipping it around to make it work for you.
Okay. So that is what you would suggest, is to get rid of some of those limiting beliefs.
Yes.
First, identify them. And then second, flipping it.
Yes, exactly. We've got to turn it around, because again, no human on the planet can succeed beyond their current beliefs. And in fact, I had a client recently say, why do these bad things keep happening to me when I'm trying to find a new job? And I said, because you hunt the bad, and the universe has perfect hearing. So we don't realize how much power, or some people forget how much power their thoughts and beliefs have. And our reticular activating system is going to find all the evidence we need to reinforce what we're saying to ourselves. So say that you give great value, right? Say that the right clients will happily pay your fees.
Yes, yes. And I always tell my clients who are stuck there, say, I'm a money magnet.
Yes.
It's like my affirmation. I'm a money magnet. Because
Yes.
I have one colleague who tends to focus on those who have not paid rather than all of the people that have paid. So focusing on that, and it's flipping. So what would you say to her who's focusing on that negativity with, oh, these three clients owe me money. They haven't paid me. They're 2 months behind.
Yeah. And I know that that's an easy rabbit hole to go down. I've been there, but to always reinforce that energy flows where our attention goes. So if that energy is focused on what's not there, then you continue to perpetuate that belief about lack, that there isn't enough. There's not enough in my bank account. And instead of focusing the energy on bringing more in, because the reality is, business owners, and I'm sure many people listening can relate, that it's always going to be an issue to a degree. Someone's not going to be able to pay, especially these last 2 years. Everyone's had something to deal with. But if that's your primary focus, then there is no growth. And we both know that a lot of businesses have actually flourished these last 2 years because of where they put their focus. So focus on bringing more in instead of looking at what hasn't gotten there yet.
And they focused on improvising with what they have. So between that and what you said, focusing on bringing more in. So great. So what is a money? I've heard you say a money why. So what is a money why, and how does it impact financial goals?
Yeah. Well, I come across a lot of people that'll say, well, I want to make 6 figures. I want to make 7 figures, and whatever that number is for you. Again, to me, it doesn't matter if you want to make 50,000 or 50 million or anywhere in between. I just want it to be your choice. But you have to have that emotional connection to it. You can't just throw a number out there. Yeah, it would be nice to make 500,000. Why? Look at what kind of impact you want to make, what you're going to be doing with that money, how it's going to affect your life. How do you want to grow your business? Who do you want to be of service to? Without that emotional connection to why you want that money, and we both know there's always going to be a bump in the road, right? There's always going to be challenges. But that emotional connection to why you want to make that money is what's going to help you stay the course when those challenges do come up. So really drill down and ask yourself those questions. What's your life going to look like when you achieve that income goal? What's the impact? Who will you be able to influence? How can you be of greater service? Dial into why you want it.
Those are great questions. Absolutely great questions. I say it's the emotional meaning. I love the emotional connection. So same thing, different words, but I do like having that emotional connection with it.
Yes.
So one other question here is, how can you improve your relationship with money?
And I've actually had people, I'm chuckling a little bit because in my talks, I've had people say, I don't have a relationship with money. Like hell, you don't.
Everybody does.
Right? Every single day, health matters, love matters, but let's look around. What can you do? How can you exist if there were no money in your world? We couldn't keep the lights on. So when I talk about people having a relationship with money, it's about initiating the attention with it. And I'll give a couple of examples. But when I tell people, if you want to have a rich and rewarding relationship with a spouse, with kids, with clients, don't you have to pay attention to them? So how can you expect to have a rich, rewarding relationship with money if you don't pay attention to it, if you just see it as this necessary evil that you let your CPA handle? So one of the first things I have people do is track the amount of money that comes in every day. And I'm talking about 3 seconds of your time. Do a money tracking sheet. You can put it in a notebook. It can be electronic. You just write down the amount of money that comes in from all sources. And that's before deductions, before taxes, whatever has to be paid out. Because again, energy flows where our attention goes. So we want to be focused on bringing it in. And even on days when that number is zero, you have to put the zero down. And I've had plenty of people say, I'm not putting the damn zero down. I don't want to see zeros on my paper. I get it. But then again, that means the money is controlling you. You're not controlling it. So when you initiate that attention, you're in the driver's seat. And if you look at that sheet at the end of the month and you see like there's this bank of zeros, well, then you can look for patterns. Maybe you didn't make any sales calls that week. What happened? Look for the patterns. It's not about guilt or shame, because heaven knows there's enough of that going around with money. It's about the awareness and look for patterns. So track your money daily and put yourself in the driver's seat with it.
So when you talk about patterns, what exactly do you mean by patterns? Because there's all types of patterns. So when it comes to money, what's a money pattern?
Yes. Well, if you're looking at, say, specific times of the month, if you look at those money tracking sheets, say you have several months in a row, and you see the first 10 days of the month on every single month, it's a lot of zeros. Well, then go back and look and see again, what's going on during that time. Have you been slow getting out of the gate? Are you not making the phone calls? Are you not reaching out to your warm market? Look for those kinds of patterns. And by the same token, because the law of cause and effect, universal law, it's always true. What if you have some great numbers? What if you've had your best month ever? Don't you want to know why? So you can replicate it?
Yes, definitely.
Right. Did you add a new product or a service? Did you make more sales calls? Did you raise your fees? So the numbers, know your numbers. They're always going to give you the information that you need, as long as you're willing to look behind it, the cause and the effect. Because I know for everyone that says, yeah, but money, money, I hate money. Money has to deal with this and money's the bad guy. But at the end of the day, it's not money that made your car break down. It's not money that made your pipes burst.
Right.
So to take that power back, because I think people give money way too much power, honestly. I would think about, there's so many uber wealthy people out there that have lost it all, literally and figuratively. And they've all rebuilt. They're in the driver's seat with money. They haven't walked away thinking I can't do it anymore. And that's part of my mission. I want people, regardless of circumstance, regardless of age, or anything going on externally, knowing that they can rebuild. And if you're willing to track and look at your numbers daily, and again, I'm talking about a few seconds. I'm not asking you to spend a half hour every day doing this. But then I also, to take that to another level, I suggest that people date their money, have money dates where you do set aside enough time once a week and look at your accounts, look at the profit and loss statements, look at your credit card balances, look at the interest rates. And this doesn't take a lot of time, but the more willing you are to know your numbers, the more in control you are to have a better relationship with money.
And that's what it comes down to, is having control with it. I loved a couple of words you used there: rebuild, and then also having, because power is one of my words that I use quite frequently in my programs, but having the power over money rather than giving money the power.
Yes.
Love that. Yes. And then there was one other word, I've lost it. There was something else that you had said in there. But great information there. And when you were talking about tracking, what money is coming in every single day. There was many years ago, I was talking to a business coach, and this is how long ago it was, because it was before we had smart devices and all the apps. And this person said to me, take a notebook, and every single day or every single month, you list from 1 to 29 or 1 to 30 or 1 to 31, depending upon the months. And every single day you write in there how much money you earned on those days. And that is going back to what you're talking about. Every single day you write it in there. So
yes, because again, when we initiate the attention, you initiate the communication, you're in the driver's seat, because money is never the bad guy. We live in an abundant universe. There is plenty of money out there, but also going back to what you believe. If you believe there's a finite supply, a limited mindset, you're focused on lack, well, then honestly, you're screwed. You're not going to be able to prosper and live the life you want to live. So get yourself right with money, starting with what you believe, all the way to not being afraid to look at your numbers.
Yes, because you can't control them or improve them until you know what they are.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you've been given such great information, and this is probably a question that would have been better at the beginning. However, I'm going to ask it now. What would be one or two mistakes that a business owner would make when it comes to money mindset?
The first thing that comes to mind is that they have to keep lowering their fees to get someone in their door.
Okay.
And that's a dangerous, slippery slope, because that's the direct road to feeling disempowered. And yes, there's competition out there. There's always somebody else that's doing what you do, but nobody's doing it how you do it. And there's nothing wrong with having a quote unquote sale, a bonus, the special, that type of thing. But I'm talking about the pervasive. In fact, I had a former client who said, I'm sick and tired of having to lower my fees just to get a customer in the door. And he had a lot of experience and was actually brilliant in his arena. Excellent expertise. But he got caught up in that cycle that I have to be cheaper. I have to be less expensive than the next guy to make the sale. No, you have to be able to effectively communicate value, because I love what you said in the beginning as well. They're paying for your experience. They're paying for your expertise, as they should.
Yes, yes. And even going back to whenever I was in corporate sales, selling on price is the worst possible thing you can do. And if somebody is trying to buy on price, then they're not the customer for you.
Exactly. You use the term investment, which, I love and I appreciate. It is an investment. It's an investment of your time, of your energy, and you are there to help that person in whatever way, whatever your product or service is, to better their life, to better their business.
Yes, yes. Speaking about corporate, when I was in corporate sales, I would always get, not always, but many times I would get a phone call from the call center, and they'd say, MJ, this person called and they're getting ready to sign a contract with somebody else, and they want a quote to see if maybe they'll go with us. And I would always say to the person in the call center, all they're trying to do is get a better price so that they can go to whoever they're already talking to see if they will lower it. If they were interested in buying from us, they would have had a conversation with us way before they decided to sign a contract with somebody else.
Yes.
And the call center, it was a struggle all the time with the call center, but I know they were trying to hit their numbers in order to make their incentives. But it was like, no, they're not coming with us. They were never even thinking about us. All they want to do is get a lower price with somebody else. They're buying on price.
And I would question, in fact, I was in a conversation with someone who was trying to get me to buy their services. And I was happy to have the conversation. As we all know that we may be a solopreneur, but we all have a lot of things going on. So we need to contract certain things out.
Yes.
And for a variety of reasons, I did not feel like we would be a good fit. And she stated her fee. And I said, no, this isn't a right fit for me. And then she said, well, I can take this much off. And I said, no, that's not it. I'm fine with the number. Well, I can go this much lower. And she kept reducing it right on the call. And I thought, do you not understand the message that you're conveying to me? You're not valuing your work, yourself. Why then would I value you and hire you?
Right. Oh, wow. That's a perfect example of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And if someone's not a right fit, they're not a right fit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're coming close to the end of our time. Well, first, how can someone get a hold of you? Let's talk about that before I go into one last tip.
Yes, great. Well, I am Eleni Anastos. You can find me here on LinkedIn, and everything is branded under my own name. So you can reach me at elenianastos.com as well. And I'm just always happy to engage in conversation. And I know MJ would agree with me. I believe in connecting to cultivate relationships. So always happy to talk.
You definitely do. You also have a book. Do you have your book handy?
Yes, I do.
Ooh, let's see your
Yeah.
book.
And I didn't know you were going to ask, but
There it is. Could you give us a quick summary on your book?
Yes. It was a little over 10 years ago when a very traumatic event turned my world upside down. Literally, what was available to me one day was no longer an option the next day. And it was extremely traumatic issues, physically, mentally, and emotionally. I didn't even recognize myself. So I had to go through a lot to get to the other side. And I knew without question that I could reinvent myself, even though it wasn't going to be easy. And I know MJ would agree with me that I shared my story because I want to reinforce that, well, first of all, we all know change is inevitable, but reinvention, purposeful reinvention, is a vital part of navigating that change to move forward. So I took my power back, reinvented my life after a traumatic event where I lost everything financially, lost my house, which is one of the dumbest phrases ever, really. I know exactly where my house is. I just couldn't afford to live there anymore. And
it is a silly phrase, but yes.
So I just want to reinforce and encourage that regardless of age and what you've been through, if you've got that desire to be, do, or have something more in your life, I hope that you will honor yourself and go for it and reinvent yourself.
And we can not only reinvent yourself, and you did a fabulous job in reinventing yourself. I want, because I know your backstory there. We can also reinvent our businesses. When we think about everybody who, like all the restaurants, I mean, even the churches, what they've done to reinvent how they do communion and services and how everything that has changed. But we can use this time, we can use our power, we can use our money mindset to reinvent our businesses so that they are serving us in the way that we need to serve them.
Yes, absolutely.
I loved this conversation. Thank you so much for being part of it. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been great connecting.
Yes, definitely. And then for our audience out there, for our listeners, thank you so much for being part of our Bounce Up broadcast. And remember to make it a Bounce Up day. Until next time.
Take care.